the latest addition to the quilt calculators. I'm going to show you the top. This is the quilt calculator home. It's quiltnotes.com. One thing you'll notice that's new is the ads at the top. I do have ads on there now. This will help me to continue offering this to you for free, so the ads will help me pay for the website. I tried to make them as least intrusive as I could, so just scroll out of the way and you won't have to look at them. So this is the home page, just tells you about the website. And if you go up here and click on calculators, we'll look at the newest calculator, and it's called the OnPoint Quilt Calculator. It's very similar to the design and size of quilt calculator, only this one is done for blocks set on point. So let's click on this, and it opens up the calculator. And let me just briefly explain it. I'm going to go through it, and then later on, after this video is finished, I'm going to include the video on this page. But there's instructions that tell you how to use it and how it was designed, so you'll know what you're doing with it. So let's look at a quilt on point. This is a sample of a quilt. The yellow corners, those are called corner triangles. Sometimes they call those corner setting triangles. The green triangles along the tops and the sides and the bottom, these are called the side triangles, sometimes called the side setting triangles, because you always need these when you set your blocks on point. Here is the block, and it's set on point because the points, the corners of the block, go horizontal, go vertically and horizontally. And the measurement of this diagonal determines the width of the quilt. So if we look at this block, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 blocks across. And this is what you'll be putting in later to size your quilt. So the diagonal measurement here times 5, the number of blocks, determines the width of this quilt, or the interior of the quilt if you later add borders. The same thing with the length. It's the same measurement because these are all square blocks. This measurement times the number of blocks down, in this case we have 7 blocks down, determines the length of the quilt. The blocks in the inside that are lighter color, we'll call this orange, they will fill in the between the rows. And the calculator will automatically calculate the total number of blocks. You can't just multiply the blocks across by the blocks down to get the number of blocks like you do on set block to block. So it will automatically calculate the total number of blocks you need. So let's look at another quilt. This is the same quilt on point, only this has the addition of sashing, here shown in black, and cornerstones here shown in this pink color. This is exactly the same layout of blocks. There are 5 across and 7 down. So that's the same number of blocks. And in this case, it happens to be 59 blocks. But this is going to be a larger quilt because you've added the sashing and the cornerstone. So that makes it wider and longer. Okay, let's go down some more and we'll look at some other things. And I wanted to caution you about something. We'll talk about borders later. I have this note here that when we make the calculation, we have this block, then we have the diagonal. So we take the finished block size and multiply it by 1.414. So there's a lot of rounding going on in these measurements. If you make sure your cutting is accurate and your piecing is accurate and you have a truly 8-inch finished block or whatever size it finishes at, make sure it is what it's supposed to be, and then you cut your sashing and cornerstones and everything accurately and piece them accurately, then your quilt will come out fine. It shouldn't be wavy, it should lay flat, but the total quilt size you get from this calculator most likely will not be the same thing because of all this rounding. If we rounded just 1/8 of an inch on each block, that's 1/8 of an inch times 5 blocks. That's 5/8 of an inch. That's a little more than a 1/2 inch difference in this way. And the more blocks you have, the more it multiplies. So don't count on having the exact measurement of your final quilt, because I know a lot of people will fret over that, but just concentrate on making your blocks the correct size and your sashing and cornerstones the correct size, and everything should be fine. All of the rounding was rounded up because I'd rather round up than round down and make something smaller. So that's where we're coming from with this calculator. I just wanted to make that known so no one would go crazy if their final quilt does not come out exactly as this calculator says. This is only approximation on the size, the finished size. So let's look at how we're going to use this calculator. For step 1, we're going to start with the block finished size. That's all we need to start this calculator. We'll enter that in the calculator. For step 2, we're going to start entering the blocks across and the blocks down in those fields. And when we do that, we'll start getting some results. And we'll start looking at those results and make sure the quilt size is what we want. And once you enter these in there, you'll come up with the finished quilt size as it is right now, the number of blocks you need, the binding fabric, the side and corner setting triangles. This will be the number of triangles you need, the backing fabric for 45-inch fabric, and the backing for 108-inch. But you can play with those numbers right now, the rows across and the rows down, and you'll make fewer blocks or more blocks to fit the size you want. Or you can add sashing and cornerstones and border if you want. So in step 3, we're going to start adding the sashing, the cornerstone, and border if that's what you want. And you will get your sashing fabric, your cornerstone fabric, and you can cut your borders crosswise or lengthwise. You'll get all of those fabric requirements. In step 4, the only thing this calculator doesn't calculate is the fabric for the side triangles. We'll have to go to this calculator to find that, and I'll show you how we do that. And here's another note, my standard disclaimer, that go ahead and you should always make test cuts and test blocks to make sure before you cut all of your fabric for your project. So now let's go through the calculator itself. So the block finished size, let's just say it's 8. We'll put that in there. And let's start with 5 across like our example. And you see there's nothing on this page yet. But the minute we put in a 7 or anything in the blocks down, we start getting results. So this is 5 across and 7 down, just like in the examples I showed you. And immediately we have the finished quilt size is 57 by 80. The number of blocks we need is 59. Here is the binding fabric we need, and here is the information we need for the side and corner setting triangle. This one tells you you need 20 side triangles, and you need to use a block size of 8. But we'll get to that part in just a minute. So let's just say that this is not the size quilt you want. You can add more blocks across, and you see it changes when I click that. You can add more blocks down to change whatever size you want. You can add a sash. Let's put a 2-inch sash. Now we see our quilt finished size is 71 by 99. I like the 71, but the 99 is a little bit too big for me. So I could either take one row of blocks off. So now it's 71 by 85. And I like that because it's fewer blocks I have to piece. Now I only need 50 blocks instead of 59. And let's add a border. Let's just say, okay, let's put a 3-inch border. Now my quilt is 77 by 91. And you can just play with the blocks across, blocks down, sashing and border, numbers, until you get the size here that is closest to what you want. And then you'll have the number of blocks you need to make, the binding fabric, and now we have 18 side triangles. Here's the sashing fabric, cornerstone fabric, border crosswise cuts, border lengthwise cuts, and the backing fabric for 44 inches and 108-inch fabric. So we have everything we need right now, and so you'll just need to copy that down or take a screenshot of these numbers. And one of these days I will learn how to print these numbers. I know how to print the page, but the numbers are not there. They just come up blank. So as soon as I figure out how to do that, that would be great. You can just print all of this. But for now, we can't do that. So just do your screenshots or however you make pictures of your screens. So let's go up here. And now we need to find out, we have all the fabric requirements we need except for the side and corner setting triangles. I'm going to click on this calculator and it will open up in a new window. So I'm going to pull this down and make this a little bit smaller and come down here. And here is my setting triangle calculator. Here's all on one little page. So let's move this over. So we looked on this page, and this is what we need, the information we need to use the calculator. We need 18 side triangles and a block size 10. So let's go back over to this calculator. Block size 10, number of side triangles 18. Now we have our side triangle fabric and how to cut it, and our corner triangle fabric and how to cut that. So now between these two apps, you have exactly what you need to make this quilt. This quilt will be approximately 77 by 91 inches. You'll have an 8-inch finished block size. There are 5 blocks across and 6 blocks down. We have a 2-inch finished sash and a 3-inch finished border. Then you have all of the information you need to make that quilt. The only thing you don't have right now is your block information, and those are done in separate calculators. But this helps you design your quilt and size your quilt, and you'll know almost all the other fabric you need except for the blocks. I hope you enjoy this new calculator and that you'll be able to use it. There's a place down at the bottom for comments, and I appreciate all of your comments you give me, suggestions. If you find something wrong, if you don't understand something, just put it in the comments and I'll answer them right on this page. Thank you so much for watching.
Don't forget to subscribe to my channel, and while you're at it, click the bell to be notified of future videos.